Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Brittany DuPhily. I'm the Educational and Outreach Coordinator here at Verteks. Today we have Mike DuPhily, my handsome husband, and he's going to be covering end user tips, tricks, and training. As always, we do record these webinars and we will be putting them up on our YouTube channel. We do have a ton of recordings on there. So anytime you want to check out something or if there's something you're trying to research, always reach out to me or Robert. We can send you in that direction. But we're also looking for feedback in these webinars. A lot of them we try to do generic because there's a lot of new people coming on. We try to keep these as interactive as possible. So let us know if there's anything that you do want us to cover, and Robert can follow up with you guys and get that scheduled into one of our webinars. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and let Mike take over and show us some tips, tricks, and training today. Mike, it's all yours.
Alrighty, thank you, Brittany. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to join us. I wanted to take a little bit of time today and just go back over the Connect client for users. I know not everyone uses the Connect client on their system, but it's an included part of the system. You can deploy it anywhere you need to on your LAN with a connection to the phone system. And additionally, if you have the Edge Gateway appliance, we can configure it so that this client can even work outside your network to provide you with kind of call control and cell phone capability, even without like a direct VPN connection for remote users. So on my screen here, I just have the Connect client brought up. And just to give you a brief tour of kind of the user interface here, kind of starting right up at the top, you'll notice kind of on the main tool or main menu bar here, it says Connect, that little arrow there, kind of letting us know we can click on this. And the first thing I'd like to show everyone, if you click on Connect up here at the top, it'll give us kind of our main drop down where we can access the settings window, which we'll look at here in more depth here in a minute. We can choose whether or not to show the toolbar pane. We'll talk about that here again in a little bit. We have a link here so we can keep this always on top. So we can of course close it or minimize it. If I minimize it, it'll stay down here in my toolbar. If I hit the X up here, it's actually going to go live down by my clock. You'll still see the icon for it here. And then if I wanted to completely exit out of the program, I can choose the exit option here. And always on top, we'll keep this in the foreground in front of any other windows I might have open on my screen when it's fully maximized and displayed. Also, they do have some links here to some training videos and the user guide, which are very helpful if you're looking for a particular feature or just want to do a little familiarization with the product here. Now, below that window, the next kind of section here up top, we've got two things of interest here. The first one is the dial pad. And mainly this is useful when we're on a call and we need to send some digits through to the other system. So if you're using the cell phone or using this for call control, if you call something like an auto attendant or something like that, and you are wondering, hey, where's my buttons? I need to hit the pound key or something. This is the link to the dial pad, which you can, again, kind of pop up or hide as needed. And this is useful for interacting with digits while you're on a call. Now, just to the right of the dial pad here where it says name or number, this is our kind of universal search bar. So I can do a couple things here. I can search for people in the directory by name. So for instance, if I wanted to look up Brittany here, I can just start to type her name. Any part of her name, you'll notice it's highlighted in bold, the kind of part that matches here. And I can see she's in a meeting. She's also one of my favorites, so I'll talk about that here in a second. But this lets me search for users on the directory. Now, if I just wanted to make a phone call and didn't want to necessarily search for somebody there, maybe I just want to call Pizza Hut or something, right? I can just directly enter a number here. And if I were to hit enter right now or hit my little green dial button, the system is going to go ahead and place that call for me. You'll notice that it's popped out this additional detail pane here when I typed in that number. And this is just going to give me additional detail for the number I selected or the user I selected. So for instance, here I can see this is the phone number I entered. I've never called this number before, so if you're on the calls tab, I don't have any history. But for instance, if we were to go and maybe take a look at a user in the directory, we can see some past interactions here with that user. So anytime we've selected a number or clicked on a user here using the search function, we do have the option to get additional kind of filtered detail for the particular user that we're looking at here. Anytime I want to get rid of these, you'll notice that I've got this little minimize icon that does appear here in the upper right. This is what will shrink down these panes that expand to the right as I'm interacting with the system. It's sort of a common user interface feature for the Connect client here. I'm just going to go ahead and click this to shrink this back down to kind of our normal mode here. Now, the next section underneath our search bar and dial pad is our personal options. And when I say personal options, these aren't settings that we change through the settings window here, but there are a couple of particular personal options that we get to using this section. So the first thing I can do here, if I click on my name, it's again going to pop out a new detail window to the right where I can see my DID and extension information, and I can choose where my calls are going to ring. Now, depending on your permissions on the system, we may have a few different options here. Most users, if you've got a full set of permissions, you'll actually see 3 options here. So under incoming calls will ring, I'm missing the first one because I actually don't have a hard phone. It's going to say desktop phone. And with desktop phone selected, that means that your calls are going to ring to your ShoreTel or Mitel phone that's sitting on your desk. In that scenario, basically your call audio for any calls that you place or receive are going to go through your physical phone, and the Connect client will basically act as sort of a remote control for your phone. So we can still look up people in the name directory. We can still choose to dial numbers here, just like you could punching them in on your phone. This is basically going to give us what we call remote call control for your physical device. All the audio for your calls are going to be controlled through your phone. And you can use the phone or the client to do things like transfers, holds, things like that. The second option here, which we have selected, is soft phone. So with the appropriate license and permissions, you can use the client as a soft phone where the computer itself is going to handle the audio for the call. Kind of like I'm speaking to you now through a headset attached to my computer, we can use the soft phone feature. The Connect client in that case is fully in control of the call. If you do have a desktop phone and you choose the soft phone option, you'll actually see your extension vacate your physical phone. Your phone will change to say anonymous, and the Connect client will be fully in charge of your extension. So any calls that you place or receive, the audio is going to be going through your PC headset or mic and speakers, whatever audio device you have configured on your computer. The final option we have here is external assignment number. And what this actually does is it allows us to completely redirect all of our calls to an outside number, say for instance, like a cell phone. And what's especially neat about doing it this way, I'm going to edit my number here because it's the fake one, is we can put multiple numbers here. So if you have kind of a personal cell phone, a work cell phone, maybe you work from home occasionally, you want to use a landline, we can add these numbers into the system here as external assignment numbers. And you'll notice we've got a few options here we can configure for number of rings and things like that. That's my number back in here. And with it set to external assignment, what this does is the phone system is still in the loop. So it's calls to my extension or to my DID, they're going to go through and they're going to ring to my cell phone. But the Connect client here is still going to be in the loop. So even though I'm taking the audio for the call over my cell phone, I'm still able to use the Connect client here to put a person on hold, transfer them to another extension, forward them to a voicemail. All the things I can do with my physical phone or with the Connect client, I'm still able to do using this external assignment feature, which is a really powerful way, especially if you're on vacation or something like that. Maybe you do want to do a little occasional work, or you're at a conference in a hotel room, you want to get some work done. You can use the external assignment feature to still handle all your calls on your cell phone, but have control over that through the Connect client. Additionally, when you're in this mode, if I make any outbound calls through the client, so let's say I were to go up here and type in someone's name or number, that call is going to be placed through your main corporate Mitel system. So the caller ID that caller is going to see, even though you're on your cell phone, they're going to see your business caller ID and potentially your direct dial back number or your main number for the company, so that you can actually use this to work on your cell phone, but kind of hide your cell phone number from those third parties if you don't want to get those calls kind of back on your cell. You'll also notice here, this last section, my conference, if you do have the we call the service appliance conference bridge installed on your system and that conferencing feature enabled, you'll see some information about your kind of permanent persistent conference here. Not a super popular feature nowadays, just considering that a lot of other conferencing systems have kind of exceeded our capabilities here. But if you are still using that on your system, you'll find information here for your persistent conference bridge. Now, again, here in this section, just under my name, where it says available, I'll shrink this back down. This is where we can change our what we call availability state now. In ShoreTel, we call this our call handling mode. This is the same button. If you have a physical phone on your desk, it's going to be the button that says state or mode. And if I click these, I can see the 6 different states or modes my extension can be in for call handling. Now, we traditionally kind of think of these as 5+1. So the +1 here is available. And the available state is your sort of normal operational calling state where calls are going to ring to your phone, to your extension normally. And usually after a default of 4 rings is the default for most systems. After 4 rings, that call is going to go to voicemail if you don't pick it up. Now, the other 5 modes here, what is useful about these is when I set them, a couple things happen. So if I put myself, for instance, in a meeting mode, that status is going to be communicated to everyone else on the system who is looking at their directory. So if I went ahead and typed my own name in here, of course it's not going to show me, but they would be able to see that I'm in a meeting. For instance, I know Brittany is in a meeting. So I can see that status before even trying to call her. Also, these change the way my extension works. So when I have these others set, kind of by default, my calls are going to be immediately sent to voicemail. So right now, if someone tried to call me, it's not going to ring my phone. It's going to go straight to my voicemail. And it's going to play a default greeting that actually lets the user know that my state is in a meeting. There are some kind of pre-canned greetings associated with these 4 specifically, the 4 kind of system states we have available. So it'll actually say my name and say is in a meeting, or if I were out of the office, it would say is out of the office. So there are actually different voicemail greetings associated with these states. The voicemail greetings can be re-recorded and customized. I'll show you how to do that here in a second. Additionally, we also have the custom option here at the bottom, which is a little bit different than these 4, in that I can actually choose a custom state here. So actually choose a little custom status message. So instead of out of office here, this will actually say Mitel webinar. And you can choose your availability here, whether you're, saying, hey, I'm still available, I'm just communicating some other status information here. Or maybe I want to say, no, don't call me, right? I'm in a Mitel webinar. I can set myself as unavailable. Now you'll notice as I hover over each of these, I've got a little pencil icon that shows up here to the right. This is going to bring up my settings window when I click that and allow me to edit. Oh, sorry, this one is the additional note option. So I can display that with my status. If I wanted to edit these, I can go here into our settings. And on the call routing section, we can change the way that these states work. They do have a sort of wizard feature that allows us to go through and make some simple changes to these. What I'm going to do is just demonstrate my available mode, right? So up top here, I can say when available in a meeting, out of office, disturb, vacation, and custom. I can choose the mode I want to edit here. I'll use available. And on this page, what it's showing me is the way this is programmed right now. So it's telling me incoming calls are routed to this number. So I'm still set to external assignment back in the client. That's why it has that number there. This phone will simultaneously ring Connect mobile client. It's because I'm using our mobility appliance option. The next one down here, 10 rings before incoming calls are routed to voicemail. So I give myself a lot of rings because I'm not always near my desk. Like I said, the default is 4. So this is something that can be changed as a common change we'll make, and something you can do yourself as a user. So let's say I wanted to change this back to 4. I can just click the change button next to this option. And I'll say, okay, well, 10 rings, I'm just going to bump this back down to 4. I can hit save down there. And now you can see I've updated it so it's going to 4 rings before incoming calls are routed to voicemail. Additionally, another common change we get is if I want to record a new voicemail greeting, this record button just below the change button here, this will pop up an interface that allows me to record the voicemail greeting that's associated with this available state. A few things to note here with these controls. Again, you'll see this occasionally when we're in the Connect client and need to make a recording. Over here to the right of this kind of waveform here where I can start the recording, you'll notice I've got 2 options here. This first one is letting me know I'm recording this. You see it's sort of a speaker icon. This is letting me know that I'm going to do this recording through my computer's mic and speakers. If I went and I changed it to this phone handset, this is telling the system, don't record it through my computer. I want you to ring my phone and I'll record it through my phone. Depending on kind of where you are, maybe you're working with the Connect client here, but you don't have a mic and speakers attached to your computer. You're going to want to do this through the phone. You'll just choose the phone option there. And if I hit record, the record button right now, what'll happen is my phone would ring. I could pick that up, make my recording. This play button will change to a stop button. Make your greeting recording, hit the stop button there, and you'll have the option to replay and review that recording right here in the interface. And then once you're finished up with that, you can hit the save recording button here and then save down at the bottom, and that would save that recording you just made. Again, the Connect client here is just one way to do that. So again, if you have access to your phone, you can also dial the pound key, for example, or hit the voicemail button on your phone to get access to the voicemail prompt system. And you can also make and change these recordings through the voicemail system, kind of the traditional way through the voicemail auto attendant. This is just an additional way, a little bit easier way if you're have your computer in front of you to make these changes. And of course, you can always start the wizard here, and it's going to take us kind of step by step through each of these settings so that we can get these configured the way we want. Just to show you another option here, change it to my do not disturb option here, just to show you how this looks a little bit different. So do not disturb you'll notice compared to available, I have a lot fewer options here, mostly because this one is just going to say always forward calls to my voicemail, right? When I'm in do not disturb, we're not worried about taking those calls or doing anything. We're just going to send them to voicemail, or we could just say never forward my calls. In that case, they're just going to get nothing going on there if they try to call you. All right, myself back into available here. Great. All right, the next section in the client underneath our name here is a few of our major functions. So you'll notice I've got 6 sections here. We'll kind of go through them one by one. The first one here, kind of one of our most popular options, is the contacts window. The contacts window here is where we can set up kind of in 2 windows some different things. So we can set up a favorites window here. And you might have noticed I kind of mentioned when we were looking up top here, you'll notice that there's a little star icon that we see when we're looking someone up by name in the directory. If I click this little star icon associated with a directory entry, this is going to add this person to the favorites window in my contacts here. And your favorites window, this is just a list of everyone that I've starred in the directory. And this is just a convenient place where I can go to look at a glance the status on the phone system of kind of the people that I favorited. So instead of having to go up here and look them up in the directory, I can simply click on this contacts window, and at a glance, kind of in a single page, I can see what my favorite user status is. You'll notice the view here is a little clunky. So I've got a lot of information here. I can condense this down into a more compact view. So up here in the upper right-hand corner of this window, I've got a few controls here. The big one, this one over to the far right, if I hover over it, you see it says change view. I can change this from the list view to a compact view where I can actually see a lot more options here. And I've got everyone's status basically here, just communicated through these little icons. A note on these when you are looking at it in compact view, we basically have kind of 3 things that are going to be communicated to us here, 4 really. So we'll have an icon next to the user indicating whether they're available, busy, or unavailable. So the kind of green, yellow, red. Additionally, you'll notice here Brittany has a green ring around her icon. If you do have the instant messaging feature enabled on your system, this is letting me know that her phone status is the big icon here, so she's in a meeting, but her IM status is available. And that's what that green ring around the user's icon means there. Yep, you can see she just switched out of office, and that's going to change for us immediately. Now, the other window that we have here besides favorites is our groups tab. I think this window is a little more flexible than this favorites window here. Favorites is just going to be a straight up list of whoever we've clicked that little star icon for. We can't really do any further organization. But on the groups tab, we can actually organize users that we want to monitor into a few different groups. And this could be helpful just looking at this kind of overall. You can have the people you're interested in seeing broken down by group, and that really makes it a little more useful, I think, to see that. Again, we have our different views up here, list view, compact view. And these groups are groups that I've created manually in my client. So for instance, on your system, if you wanted to create a new group here, we can click this little plus button for a new contact or group. I'm gonna go ahead and add a group here. I can choose the name right up top, and then group members here. I can actually just type names here. So For instance, I wanted to add Brittany, I just start to type Brit, add that. I wanted to add Dawn, just type Dawn and do that. And that's how we can add users to the group here. Once I hit create, now we'll see I've got a new Mitel training group that has these users in it. Users can be in multiple groups. You'll notice here I can have the same user in 2 different groups if I wanted to do that. But this is just a little bit more flexible way of organizing and getting a little more value out of these contacts. If I do want to edit or delete a group once I've created it, you'll see these little kind of slider buttons associated with that here. That'll pop out this window where I can choose some other options here. And then I can go back and either edit or even delete this group. All right. Our next function here, just under contacts, is our recent window. This is going to be our history, so our call history. Anytime that you place or receive a call, the system is going to go ahead and log that on the server for you, and this is basically a view into that information. I can't really edit or delete things here because it's all stored server side, but this will let me go back and review my call history. So if I needed to call anyone back, potentially if I missed a call, someone attempted to call me and I wasn't able to answer it, similar to my voicemail here, this recent is going to have a number that pops up on top of it there, and that's going to be your missed calls if you had any. And that missed tab here can actually filter this view just to show you any calls that you've missed. If we wanted to do a quick callback, I can simply double click on someone here to give them a call back. And that'll, again, initiate it through either my desk phone or my cell phone, depending on what audio path I have selected. This is a handy, useful way to interact with this. One other function we have with the recent window here, again, in the upper right-hand corner, this little icon here will actually let me export this call data. And I can choose either today, the week, or the month. And this will actually export in an Excel spreadsheet format for us. I'll show you what it looks like here. And you'll notice there's a little bit of additional information here. We can get call direction, the duration of the calls here. So if for whatever reason you wanted to export this data and save it, you do have that option available to you. Underneath our recent section here, we do have our voicemail interface. This is going to be broken down into 3 sections here. So we have kind of all our messages together on one screen, or I can filter based on messages that are unheard. And I can also look at any saved messages I have. I went ahead and left myself kind of an example voicemail here. I can click on it just to show you. So when I click on a voicemail message here, it's going to pop up that interface we saw when we were recording our messages, and this one's just going to give me the playback option. And again, I can choose to play that back through my computer speakers here or through my phone here. We do have some other options here. I can't reply to myself, so that's why that option is grayed out. But if you wanted to, for instance, forward a voicemail to someone else, save it or delete it, we have those options here. I'm going to go ahead and hit save here. And you'll notice that's going to mark this message with this little icon here. This is letting me know this is a saved message. So this isn't going to get automatically deleted or filtered or anything out of your voicemail. We're basically saying, hey, we want to preserve this. Additionally, if I click on my save filter view here, I'll see this message show up in my saved messages. Also, when I delete a message here, delete, you'll notice that it's going to go into a section here that says deleted voicemails. Now this isn't a tab that shows up on the top. You can only see this through the all window here. And this voicemail will live in here until midnight. So at midnight, the system goes through, and any messages that were deleted that day, it's going to go ahead and purge them from the server. But up until that point, around midnight or so, you do have the option to restore this message if you need to. So if this got accidentally deleted or something like that, you do have a window where we can restore this message. If I right-click on the message, I do have some additional options here. So I can add this user to one of my contact groups that we looked at earlier. I do have the option to mark this as heard or unheard. I can edit the voicemail subject, not a big thing we see a lot of. And then another option here, I can download a copy of this voicemail as a WAV file. This can be very useful in a few different situations. So if, for instance, you have a voicemail that you received that you want to share with somebody outside your organization, you could simply download this as a WAV file. It'll actually allow you to save it as a file on your computer. And then you can actually forward this through as an email attachment or anything like that to another party. Additionally, if you really needed to preserve a message long term, again, you can right-click on it, download it as a file, and save it out on your network, or provide it to, again, another party for long-term storage or retention. And then, of course, we have our delete option here as well. Right. Our next section here, messages. This is one you'll see if you do have the, again, service appliance with its IM functionality enabled. This is going to show me any in-progress IM communications we have going on now. IMs can be initiated sort of the same way you'd initiate a call. So in this case, I'm going to go back to my contacts. I've got Brittany here. If I right-click on Brittany, I can actually choose Send IM as an option here. And that's going to let me start a new conversation with Brittany here. See her replying there. We'll get a little IM pop-up in the corner. And then on my messages tab, now I've got kind of an open thread here. And I can always hit messages here and go back to get into this active thread. IMs are stored in the client itself. So kind of unlike a few other things in the system, you may, if we kind of remove conversation here, potentially disconnect the client, reconnect it somewhere else, you may lose messages that you might have on another computer. So just something to keep in mind. The IMs are somewhat ephemeral. So it's really more of a convenience feature. We don't have great auditing capabilities or search functionality or things like that with the built-in IM feature here. Our last one here, events. This is mainly designed for the conference bridge. If you're using the conference bridge functionality, similar to IM, if I needed to create a scheduled conference bridge here, I can use my add event to do that. Additionally, this is going to plug into my Outlook calendar, if possible, nowadays, to show you that. Kind of one of the things we have currently going on with the system, obviously, Microsoft has been making some changes to 365, and the client now is in a position where it's not able to correctly link with a 365 mailbox the way it used to because of some changes in authentication. So depending on your system, you may or may not see your calendar information here. Mostly anyone on a newer secured 365 mailbox, we're not going to be able to plug into that yet. Mitel is making some changes to the client to be able to use the new modern authentication that Microsoft has. And then this functionality will be restored. But primarily, you're going to be able to see your Outlook calendar here. and of course create new scheduled conferences for the conference bridge if you use that feature. Not a lot of people get into this events tab very often, but again, it is there for you if you want to take advantage of that. Finally, this last one, it's a grayed out on mine. I think it should be pretty much grayed out on most systems. This is a link to a cloud feature that Mitel has called My Team Meetings. This is a more advanced cloud conference bridge functionality. It is an add-on to the system at the initial subscription cost per month. If you have the My Team Meetings feature enabled on your system, this would provide you a link to that cloud conference bridge functionality. Again, not a very popular option considering kind of all the options for conferencing that are out there. But this would provide you a link to that feature. We unfortunately can't get rid of it. It'll always be there and grayed out on the newer versions of the Connect client. An additional user interface item that I mentioned way at the beginning is our toolbar. You can show and hide that by clicking the Connect link up at the top and choosing this Show Toolbar feature. The toolbar gives us a place to set up things that are essentially analogous to like programmable buttons on your phone, but in the client. You can notice here it says you can add buttons to the toolbar by clicking here. And if I click there, what this is going to show me is a list of predefined buttons that your phone system administrator has programmed for you in your system. So as a user, I can't just go ahead and kind of create my own buttons here and put them there, but I can choose from a selection of buttons that the system administrator has published for you. So as an example, like we've got one here that's, we call this a monitor extension button. Excuse me. This is analogous to that monitor extension button on a user's phone. Some other functions here we can do. And I can choose to add or show some of these buttons in my client. This can be a really useful way to get access to certain other functions that may not always display in the client for you. Well, for instance, like the silent monitor function. If I'm a contact center or call center supervisor, there are a few different ways we can get access to that. One of the ways that I think a lot of people find easiest is to have this silent monitor button present on the toolbar for you. If you don't have these toolbar buttons configured, or you don't want to use that or see that, again, I can always click on the Connect link up top and get rid of that Show toolbar there. All right, now the final section of the client is this kind of pane down at the bottom, and it's currently empty. Just to show you this section here, just what that does, I can kind of choose and expand it or shrunken view for this to give me some more real estate here. This kind of blank area underneath is our active calls window. So if I'm on a call on my extension currently, this is going to actually show me any active calls that I'm on. I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can get a call going here. All right, so what I did is I just went ahead and placed a call. I've got a call now active here, and this is what an active call will look like in the client. If I click on this call here, you'll notice I've got a few simple commands I can use with this call kind of just without expanding it. So I can mute my audio, excuse me, same as using the mute button on my phone. The pause button here will let me place this call on hold, and then this red hang up button will let me hang up the call. Now, if I want to get the full suite of actions I can use with this call, I can go ahead and click on it here. That'll again open this window, expand it to the right. And in this top section here, this is where I have my full suite of call control options. So in addition to the hang up and hold options, I have right up top here to the right. Just below that, I have our mute option there. Video camera, that option doesn't work anymore. We'll skip that one. The share your screen, that again integrates with that conference bridge action if that is installed on your system. This would escalate this call into sort of a screen sharing conference bridge session. If I wanted to record this call, again, depending on how your system is configured, if any other call recording is going on or if any permissions are set, you do have the option potentially to record your own calls. If I were to click this, what this would do is it would actually start the recording from the moment I clicked it, and it's going to record the rest of that call, and it's going to save it for me as a voicemail in my voicemail box by default. Again, your permissions have to be configured appropriately to allow you to record your own calls. Additionally, if your calls are already being recorded by another system, for instance, if you're like a call center agent, your call can only be recorded in one place at a time. So you would see this option grayed out in that case. Just to the right of that, our little person with a plus sign next to them says add participant. This is our conference calling option. So if I wanted to turn this kind of direct call into a three-way call, I can click add participant here, type the, again, name or number that of the person that I want to bring into the call. And I've got three options beneath that here for the type of conference call we can do. So the first option, conference, this is what we call a blind conference. If I click this button, it's going to go ahead and call Brittany, and the very second she answers, it's going to place all three of us into a conference call. If I wanted to be a little bit nicer and kind of say, hey, Brittany, is it okay if I bring you onto this call? I'd want to choose this option, the consult option. That's going to set up or allow me to just talk to Brittany first, confirm that she actually wants to join the conference call, and then I'll have an additional button that shows up that allows me to say, okay, now we can bring all three of us on together. The third option may or may not see, depending on call permissions on your system, in the intercom option, a little bit dangerous. This one, if I click that, instead of Brittany's phone ringing, her speakerphone is going to beep, and it's going to let me talk to her kind of that way, just kind of immediately bypassing her phone ringing, going straight to her speakerphone. Not a super common option on a lot of systems, but we do have it available. Our next option to the right there is transfer. So this is the button I'll use to transfer a call using the client. Again, I can click that button. It's going to let me choose a destination. And then you'll notice I have a much larger menu of options here for transfers. So similar to the conference call, I have a blind transfer option where it's just going to immediately send this call to Brittany, and she's going to be on it as soon as she picks up. I can choose the consult option, where again, it's going to let me announce this call to her and then complete the transfer with a second step. That intercom option again, kind of dangerous, not a one that you'll find enabled on most systems. The park option, kind of an interesting one. This is one you might use if, for instance, I received a call for Brittany, and Brittany's not by her desk, but just maybe happens to be standing next to me. Or maybe I'm in a situation where, think of like a department store, where they're going to announce over the loudspeaker, John, you have a call on line 2, or something like that. Basically, this park option is going to allow me to transfer this call to another extension but instead of that phone ringing, that call is just going to be sitting there on hold until someone comes over to pick it up. So Park is very useful if the person you're transferring to is standing next to you. You don't want to necessarily ring their phone and maybe have it go to voicemail, but you can actually take the call, immediately transfer it to another extension, and just have it sit on hold there. The whisper option, again, not a one you'll see often. With the whisper option, if I chose that, let's say Brittany was on the phone, and this would be kind of a supervisor kind of option. If Brittany happened to be on the phone while I tried to do this transfer, the whisper option is actually going to allow me to kind of insert my audio into her ongoing call so that only she can hear it. And I can sort of be like the voice of God coming in and say, hey, I really need you to get off this call because I got this new transfer I'm going to send you in 5 seconds. So it kind of gives me a audio way to kind of insert myself into any ongoing call she has currently to maybe let her know some really important information or something like that. Again, not an option you'll see on a lot of systems here. The permissions have to be configured to allow it. And then finally, our last option here, one that's definitely more popular, is a transfer to voicemail. So if I'm on a call, I hit transfer, I know she's not there, it's a sales call or something like that, I can choose this voicemail option, and this call is just going to immediately go straight to that person's voicemail box. Phone won't ring, and that's just going to end up straight in our voicemail. Additionally, you'll notice probably a couple other things here down on the bottom. I can choose from people I call frequently or recently, just as a quick way. Instead of having to type their name up here, I can just click on them here, as well as see, again, down here at the bottom, some of my previous call history. Can be a little bit hard to see. We can always resize it there. So just some additional information here. Once I select one of these buttons, it will actually start the transfer process. One behavioral difference to note as far as transfers initiated from the client versus like transfers initiated from, let's say, a physical phone. If I use the transfer button on a physical phone, the phone is going to place that person on hold and let you complete the transfer. If I initiate a transfer through the Connect client here, and I hit transfer, it's not going to place that person on hold. The idea is, obviously, my hands are probably free if I'm working with my computer, so I can actually continue talking to the person while I put in the information for the transfer and complete it on my computer. Whereas if I initiated that transfer from my phone, as soon as I hit this transfer button on the phone, that caller is going to be placed on hold. I can, of course, simulate that same behavior with a client and say, hold on a second, let me put you on hold while I complete this transfer for you. And I can hit the hold button, and I can still go ahead and do the transfer here while the person is on hold. And of course, once we are wrapped up with the call, again, we can just use our hang up button there. That's going to go ahead and immediately terminate the call. And now we'll be right back to our normal interface. All right, we've got a few minutes left here. Just want to show you guys a couple other things in the settings window here. It's pretty much covered all the main features of the client. Some additional options in here that you might want to look at changing or adjusting for yourself. So on our call routing tab, this availability routing section covers the way that these states behave. An additional option that we have here that not a lot of people know about is what we call power routing. And you can effectively think of these as sort of like Outlook rules for phone calls. For instance, if I wanted to create a rule that maybe I've got a particularly pesky salesperson, right? And I'm just kind of sick of them always ringing my phone. I can create a rule here that says sales to voicemail. if I know what number they're always calling from, I can enter it in here. And I can say forward call to voicemail. And I can create this rule. And now, anytime I get a call from this particular number, it's just going to go straight to voicemail immediately. I can create quite a few of these, and I can create some different kinds of settings here. So maybe, for instance, I wanted to create another rule that call from boss, right? So this time I'm going to say, okay, when my boss calls, right, I'll enter his number there. I'm going to say, okay, I want to make sure that I always get that, so I'm going to forward it to my cell phone, right? Or let's say maybe in the sales scenario, maybe I don't know what number they're calling from, or maybe they always call from a blocked number. And why do I need to answer a blocked number anyway? From this drop down here, I can actually say if the number is out of area or unknown, then just always send it to voicemail and create a rule for that. So a lot of neat things here we can do with power routing. Definitely check it out. Again, the way you might want to use it will be kind of unique to your particular scenario, but we do have some neat options there. Additionally, here on the voicemail tab, under the setup tab here, if you wanted to record your name for the system, not everyone always does that during their initial mailbox setup. If you ever listen to your voicemail greeting and it's just like saying your extension number or something, that's because you haven't recorded your name. You do have the option to record that there, as well as change your voicemail password yourself if you need to. And some of our Outlook options currently aren't working very well with 365, but we do have options here as far as syncing your calendar to your availability modes. So when you're in meetings, have it automatically switch you to in a meeting. Not a whole lot of people use that feature, but it is there. Additionally, the client will integrate with Outlook and import your contacts here. So once we get that, again, kind of working better with 365, that functionality will come back. Also, kind of a last one here, the notifications section. A kind of neat option we have here I can check off is if I wanted to, let's say, if I have my email set up on my cell phone, I want to be able to listen to my voicemails on my cell phone. Maybe I don't have the mobility app. On the notifications tab here, I can check off this send email notification about voicemail and attach a voicemail as a WAV file. And now every time someone leaves me a voicemail message, I'm going to get a copy of that message also delivered to my email that I can listen to from wherever I have my email present. So this could be a really useful option if you want to check your email or voicemails while you're out of the office. And then also this pop-up window here. Sometimes we hear that like these pop-ups that show up in the corner for incoming calls or voicemails aren't popping up for long enough, things like that. You can adjust those settings here in the notifications tab. And this is a little bit buried, so I always like to point out where that is here. Again, we do have plenty of other videos on our YouTube site that cover some other sections of this a little more in depth. And of course, we'll always be happy to help you with any specific questions you have on your own system or anything that you'd like to do. But other than that, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Hopefully it was handy for everyone, and I'll turn it back over to Brittany to wrap us up here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. We'll give everybody just a few minutes to enter any questions if they want us to cover. And if we don't see anything pop up, we do appreciate everybody joining us today. I will send out the recording to everybody that's registered as soon as I have it uploaded to our YouTube channel. And then, as always, if you have any questions after the fact, or you see anything you have a question about, Robert reaches out to you on a regular basis, and he'd be happy to forward this over to Mike and Steve, and they'll be updating those questions and everything into our next webinars. I know our next one is going to be on admin training, so we'll probably do some hunt group stuff and some other things. And that is going to be on August 16th, which is Tuesday at 2 o'clock. And I'm sure everybody on here will get that information as well. I still don't have any questions, so we'll give everybody back a few more minutes of their day. We do appreciate you joining us, and thank you, Mike. It's always a pleasure.